So you've got the two numbers, the score and the fair value estimate, right? Those are the two main numbers that we should be looking at.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Our screener and everything is based on those numbers, and so everything else is just there to kind of fill in gaps or to help people, like if they want to do a deeper dive elsewhere, they can.
Mhm.
But ultimately, those two numbers really kind of give you the high level picture of how a company's doing.
Okay. Well, let's start with the score then. Help us understand what the score is and what Apple's score means.
Sure, sure. So we have three specific components to a score. We have the competitive advantage, which Warren Buffett calls a moat. He called it the durable competitive advantage. It's basically anything that basically sets a company apart that makes it really hard for other companies to get into its space. There's a lot of different ways this happens through branding, through pricing. Example of pricing would be like Costco. Costco's prices are so low; it's very hard for other companies to compete.
Mhm.
Branding. Apple would be a great example of branding. You know how
Mhm.
they have a branding moat. And then there's management. We look at management as well. How efficient is a management at running the company? And finally, we have debt, which looks at a company's all of its liabilities, and how much those can impact actually a company's bottom line. So between the three of those, it kind of gives us the overall score and gives us a really good picture of the quality and how essentially how good a company it is.
So, okay. So as I understand it, then you're kind of looking at all of those things to come up with this one score.
Mm-hmm.
What is Apple's score right now?
Apple has a score of like around 65. We kind of create a baseline of 72. That's 72 is where we found to be kind of uh, the baseline for a company being kind of a good company. So we have kind of a minimum value of 72. So Apple actually falls underneath that right now, meaning that somehow Apple is not doing as well as other companies in its area for various reasons. And I guess we can kind of explore that a little bit.
So you're saying with the score that it has right now, it might not be as solid a company as some of the other competitors in that space right now. In my opinion, Apple's been a strong company for a long time. So has it always had a low score? Is it, always been that way?
Absolutely not. So let me get down to here, kind of see historically how Apple's done. So you can see here over time. Now this is a little misleading because the score is based upon a like having a certain amount of runway. And
Mhm.
so the less runway I have, and since my scoring, so data wasn't available till like 2007 or so, so you can kind of see the score as we had more and more historical data, the score went up. But you can kind of see that around 2015, it started. I think it kind of plateaued or got to a point where I believe that historically it wasn't being affected anymore.
Mhm.
But what you can see is that 2015 and on, it's had a fairly decent score. It just at the past couple of years, it just kind of like bounced around that minimum viable company baseline. But obviously, you can see that in 2016 or so, I mean, it was a very good company.
Mhm.
Had a score of 83, so that tells me that it had proper growth, historical growth, it had proper debt management, and it had proper management efficiency, meaning that it had good returns on equity and investment capital. I don't want to get into the details of that, but all
Mhm.
that basically just saying that it had efficient management.
Okay. So you're saying that about 8 years ago, it had a really good score, 83. Your baseline is 72. 83, that's quite a bit higher and quite a bit
Yep.
higher than it is now.
Yep.
So why do you have thoughts on why the score maybe is gradually dropping?
Sure. We can kind of like do a deeper dive here. I can tell really quickly that competitive advantage moat here, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the growth. And if I kind of open up the panel here and show the numbers, we can kind of see that the uh, the historical growth has kind of slowed. We're looking at an average of like a 3.24% for growth, which honestly doesn't even account for inflation. So that's problematic with a company if you're having growth. And what that means for long-term investors, if you don't have like a dividend stock where you're getting some kind of income based on the shares you have, you're really trying to get value out of the company based on its growth. Okay, and if a
Mhm.
company is no longer growing, which Apple seems to have slowed down, then what you can get out of a company, the expectations for any kind of compounding kind of like start going away. And so you can kind of see as their growth has slowed, that's where the score has kind of started dropping off.
Started to go down. Okay. And so that's where you were saying the Warren Buffett quote where trees don't grow into space. There's just the idea that there's a finite
Yeah,
there's a finite potential there before it plateaus.
right. Yeah, unless a company can reinvent itself, I mean, the growth is typically it has to. Typically, growth is limited.